The auction house on Veltros Prime was the largest building Captain Dae-hyun had ever seen. Its walls stretched up toward the purple sky, made of some kind of glowing crystal that hurt his eyes when he looked at it too long. He stood at the YOA entrance with his crew, trying not to show how nervous he felt. This was humanity's first time at a major galactic trade event. They needed to make a good impression. "Stay close," Dae-hyun said to the two people beside him. Hana was young, barely 25, but she was smart and spoke 4 alien languages already. Taeyang was older, a security officer with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. Both of them nodded. They walked through massive doors into a chamber that could hold thousands of beings. And it did. Aliens of every shape and size filled the space. Some had fur, some had scales, some were just floating lights. The noise was incredible, clicking, humming, roaring, sounds that Dae-hyun had no words for. "This is amazing," Hana whispered. Her eyes were wide. An alien with 4 arms and purple skin approached them. It wore a device around its neck that translated its words into Korean. "Humans, yes? Welcome to the Consortium Trade Summit. Your species is very new. Very interesting. Please, find seats. The auction begins soon." Dae-hyun frowned. "Auction? We thought this was a diplomatic meeting." The alien made a sound like laughter. "Trade is diplomacy here, you will see, you will learn." They found seats near the middle of the huge room. All around them, aliens were talking and gesturing. Hana pulled out a small device and started recording everything. Taeyang just watched, his hand near the weapon at his belt. Lights dimmed. A spotlight appeared on a stage at the front of the room. An alien walked onto the stage, tall and thin with too many joints in its arms and legs. It spread its arms wide. "Welcome, traders of the consortium," the voice boomed through speakers. "Today we have many fine items. Workers from the Phalanx system, soldiers from the 9th moon, entertainment from the crystal worlds." Dae-hyun felt his stomach turn. Items. The alien had said items. On the stage, a platform rose from below. On it stood 3 beings that looked almost like humans, but with grayish skin and large eyes. They wore simple clothes and chains around their ankles. They stared at the crowd with empty expressions. From Phalanx 3, these workers are strong and obedient. They need little food. They live for 80 years. Perfect for mining operations or construction. We start bidding at 5,000 credits. The crowd erupted with noise. Aliens shouted numbers. Lights flashed above their heads showing their bids. Within 2 minutes, the 3 beings were sold to a reptilian alien in the front row for 12,000 credits. Guards came and led them off the stage. "What?" Hana's voice shook. "What did we just see?" Taeyang's face had gone hard like stone. Slavery. More platforms rose. More beings were displayed, described, and sold. A family of small furry creatures, 8,000 credits. A pair of warriors with blue skin and sharp teeth, 20,000 credits. An old alien with tentacles, who could calculate complex math in seconds, 15,000 credits. Dae-hyun wanted to leave. He wanted to run from this place and never come back. But he was a captain. He was here representing Earth. He had to see this through. "Our final item tonight is very special," the auctioneer said. Its voice got excited. "Very rare. From the conquered world of Kelora, we present a giant." The platform that rose this time was much larger, and on it stood a being that made Dae-hyun's breath catch in his throat. She was huge, at least 15 feet tall, maybe more. She looked human. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face with eyes and a mouth. But her skin was pale like moonlight and her hair was white and long, falling past her shoulders. She wore torn clothing that might have once been beautiful, and she was covered in chains. Heavy chains around her wrists, chains around her ankles, a chain around her neck. But it was her eyes that made Dae-hyun feel sick. They were blue, like Earth's sky, and they were completely empty. "This is Lyria of Kelora," the auctioneer said. "Her species is called the Keloran Giants. Very strong, very durable. The Vrexian Empire conquered her world 2 years ago. Only 200 of her kind remain alive. She would be excellent for arena combat or heavy labor. She does not fight her chains anymore. She has been properly broken. The way the auctioneer said those words, proud, satisfied, made Daehyun's hands shake. We start bidding at 50,000 credits. The numbers climbed fast. Aliens all over the room were interested. Daehyun listened to them talk, their words translated by his earpiece. Good investment, giants are tough. I could use her in my gladiator ring, the crowds would love it. 55,000. She's worth more alive than dead. They were talking about a person, a living, thinking person, and they spoke about her like she was a piece of equipment. Lyria stood on the platform and stared at nothing. The chains clinked softly when she breathed. She did not look at the crowd. She did not react to anything. It was like she had gone somewhere far away in her mind. 80,000 credits, a voice roared. Daehyun looked and saw a massive alien with red scales and armor covering its body. A Vrexian, one of the species that had destroyed Lyria's world. 80,000 credits from Lord Vex of the Vrexian Imperial Fleet, the auctioneer announced. Any other bids? The room went quiet. 80,000 was a huge amount. Nobody wanted to compete with a Vrexian warlord. Going once, going twice. Hana grabbed Daehyun's arm. Her fingernails dug into his sleeve. She was crying. Captain, she whispered. Please, we can't let this happen. Daehyun looked at Taeyang. The older man's jaw was tight. His eyes were angry. This is wrong, Taeyang said quietly. This is evil. Daehyun looked back at the stage, at Lyria. She had not moved. She stood, there like a statue, waiting for her fate to be decided by strangers. And in that moment, Daehyun understood something. He understood that everything humanity thought about joining the galactic community was wrong. They had imagined advanced civilizations would be wise and good. They had dreamed of learning from older, better species. But this was not wisdom. This was not civilization. This was barbarism wearing a crown. Sold to Lord Vex for 80,000 credits. The crowd applauded. Some aliens cheered. The Vrexian lord stood and raised his arms in victory. Guards moved toward Lyria to take her off the stage. She walked with them without resistance. Her chains dragged on the ground behind her. The auction continued. More beings were brought out. More lives were sold. But Daehyun did not see any of it. He was watching Lyria disappear through a door at the side of the stage. When the auction finally ended, the three humans sat in silence while aliens filed out around them, chatting and laughing. What do we do? Hana asked. Her voice was small. Daehyun stood up. He felt sick. He felt angry. He felt helpless. But most of all, he felt determined. We file a protest with the Consortium Council, he said. We tell Earth what we saw, and we figure out how to stop this. The Consortium won't care, Taeyang said. This is legal here. This is normal. Daehyun looked at both of them. Then we make them care. Humanity didn't come all the way to the stars just to watch people being sold like animals. We're going to fight this. Hana wiped her eyes and nodded. Taeyang's expression softened just a little. They walked out of the auction house together into the alien night. Behind them, in some holding cell, Lyria waited in chains to be taken to the arena. She would fight until she died, for the entertainment of crowds who had never known her name or her story. But 3 humans had seen her. 3 humans had looked into her empty eyes and felt something break inside themselves. And that changed everything. Daehyun did not sleep that night. He sat in his quarters on the human ship and wrote a report. He described everything he had seen at the auction. He used simple words because he wanted everyone on Earth to understand. He wanted them to feel what he had felt. At dawn, or what passed for dawn on this alien world, he sent the report to the Consortium Council. Then he sent a copy to Earth. The response from the Council came in 3 hours. It was short. Your protest has been noted. The matter will be discussed. Please wait. The response from Earth took longer. When it came, it was not a message. It was a person. Ambassador Jiwoo arrived on Velthros Prime 2 days later. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair tied back in a tight bun. She had been a lawyer on Earth before becoming a diplomat. She did not smile much, but when she spoke, people listened. She met with Daehyun in a secure room on the human ship. Hana and Taeyang were there too, along with another member of the crew, Minho, their tech specialist. He was young and thin, always wearing headphones and staring at computer screens. "I read your report," Jiwoo said. She sat down and folded her hands on the table. "Earth is shocked. The president has given me full authority to handle this situation. Tell me everything again." "Every detail," Daehyun did. He described the auction house, the beings sold, the way the crowd had reacted. He described Lyria, her chains, her empty eyes, the way nobody seemed to care about her at all. When he finished, Jiwoo was quiet for a long moment. "The Consortium Council agreed to meet with me," she finally said. "Tomorrow. They will hear our formal complaint. Will they listen?" Hana asked. Jiwoo's expression was grim. "We will find out." The Consortium Council chamber was circular and enormous. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in rows that went up and up like a stadium. At the center was a floor where speakers could stand. Above everything, holographic images showed the faces of council members who were too far away to attend in person. Jiwoo walked to the center of that floor. Daehyun and the others sat in the observation section watching. A being made of light spoke first. Its voice echoed through the chamber. "Ambassador Jiwoo of Earth, you have filed a protest regarding trade practices witnessed on Velthros Prime. Please state your complaint." Jiwoo stood straight and spoke clearly. "The human species protests the practice of sentient being, trade within the consortium. We witnessed conscious, intelligent beings bought and sold as property. This violates basic rights and dignity. We ask the council to ban this practice immediately." For a moment there was silence. Then the chamber erupted with noise. Aliens were talking all at once, some angry, some laughing, some just confused. A reptilian being with a crown on its head spoke next. "The human protests a practice that has existed for 10,000 years. Does Earth believe it knows better than every civilization in the consortium? We believe that enslaving sentient beings is wrong," Jiwoo said simply. "No matter how long it has been practiced." "Wrong?" An insect-like alien clicked its mandibles. "This is a human concept. The consortium respects cultural diversity. Many species engage in this trade. It is regulated and legal. The beings sold have lost wars, committed crimes, or come from species designated as appropriate for trade. This is not slavery. This is commerce." Jiwoo's voice got harder. "Selling people is slavery, no matter what words you use to describe it." "The human is young," another voice said. This one came from a hologram, a floating creature with tentacles. "Earth has been part of the consortium for less than 3 years. You do not understand our ways. You bring primitive moral frameworks to a complex galactic society." Daehyun felt anger burning in his chest. He wanted to stand up and shout. But this was not his place. He had to let Jiwoo handle it. "Perhaps we are young," Jiwoo said, "but we know right from wrong. We have fought wars on our own planet over this very issue. We have seen what slavery does to societies. It corrupts everything it touches. We are asking you to see this truth." "Denied," the being of light said. Its voice was final. "The consortium will not ban sentient trade. This practice is protected under consortium law as a legitimate cultural expression. Your protest is dismissed." Just like that, it was over. Guards gestured for Jiwoo to leave the floor. She walked back to where the humans sat. Her face showed no emotion, but Daehyun could see her hands shaking. They left the chamber in silence. Back on the ship, Jiwoo sat in the briefing room with her head in her hands. The others gathered around her. "They didn't even really consider it," Hana said quietly. "They just said no and moved on." Minho had been working on his computer the whole time. Now he looked up. "I found something," he said. "While you were in the council chamber, I accessed their public databases. The records go back thousands of years." He turned his screen around so they could all see. Numbers scrolled past, names, species, prices. "This is bigger than we thought," Minho continued. "The trade system is not just a few auctions. It is the foundation of the consortium economy. 5 major empires control most of it. They make billions of credits every year, maybe trillions." "Show me the names," Taeyang said. Minho pulled up a list. "The Rexian Empire, the Thaler Collective, the Mordrani Hegemony, The Qual Unity, the Serpus Dominion. These 5 control the trade. They have been doing it for so long that hundreds of other species depend on it too. Stopping the trade would collapse their economies. Dae-hyun looked at the screen and felt his hope dying. How could they fight something this big? There is more, Minho said. He looked nervous. I found records about Lyria's species. The Kalorans. They were a peaceful people. Artists and teachers. Their planet had no weapons, no military. The Vrexians invaded 2 years ago. They killed most of the population and enslaved the rest. There were millions of Kalorans before the invasion. Now there are only 200 left alive. The room went silent. 200, Hana whispered. Out of millions. Genocide, Taeyang said. The word hung in the air like poison. Jiwoo stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at the alien city below. I received new orders from Earth while we were in the council chamber, she said. The president has decided. Earth will not be complicit in this system. We are authorized to take action. What kind of action? Daehyun asked. Jiwoo turned around. Her eyes were hard. We are going to buy Lyria. We will use emergency funds from Earth. We will outbid the Vrexian Lord and free her. And then we are going to show the galaxy what humanity thinks of their precious trade system. They will call us hypocrites, Minho said. They will say we are participating in the very thing we protest. Let them, Jiwoo said. We will free her. Then we will find a way to free the others, all of them. Daehyun stood up too. The auction was 2 days ago. The Vrexian Lord already bought her. How do we get her back? Trade law allows for counteroffers within a certain time period, Jiwoo explained. If we offer significantly more money, and if the original buyer agrees, the trade can be reversed. It is meant to prevent buyers from making bad deals, but we can use it. Will the Vrexian agree? Hana asked. For enough money, yes, Jiwoo said. Pride is expensive, but money is universal. Taeyang crossed his arms. And what happens after we free her? The council already said they will not ban the trade. Nothing will change. Jiwoo smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Then we will make them change. Earth did not send me here to ask politely. They sent me here to fight. Over the next day, preparations were made. Jiwoo contacted the Vrexian Lord through official channels. She offered him double what he had paid, 160,000 credits. The money came from Earth, transferred through human banks. The Vrexian Lord was suspicious at first, but money spoke louder than pride. He agreed. The transfer would happen in 3 days at the auction house. Lyria would be handed over to human custody. Officially, humans would own her, until they could figure out how to legally free her under consortium law. This is just the beginning, Jiwoo said as they made final preparations. Freeing one person will not change the system, but it will send a message. It will show the galaxy that humanity cares, that we see the beings they treat as property, that we will not look away. Daehyun thought about Lyria. He wondered if she even knew what was happening. Did she know that beings from a young species called humans were trying to save her? Did she dare to hope? The night before the transfer, Minho came to Daehyun's quarters. He looked tired and worried. Captain, he said, I found something else in the databases. Humans are now on a list, a watch list. The consortium is monitoring us. They are worried we might cause problems. Good, Daehyun said. They should be worried. You do not understand, Minho said. This list, species on it have disappeared before. Species that push too hard for changes. There are gaps in the records. Missing civilizations. Daehyun felt cold. Are you saying the consortium kills species that cause trouble? I am saying they might, Minho answered. We are stepping into something dangerous, Captain. Daehyun looked at the younger man. Then we will be careful. But we will not stop. We cannot stop, Minho nodded slowly. I know. I just wanted you to know the risks. After Minho left, Daehyun sat alone in the dark. He thought about Earth, about his home. About the billions of humans who would never see these stars or know these aliens. And he thought about Lyria, waiting in chains, not knowing that across the auction house felt different in daylight, less crowded. The crystal walls let in the purple sunlight, making everything look strange and dreamlike. Daehyun stood with Jiwoo and Taeyang near the main floor waiting. Lord Vex arrived exactly on time. The Vrexian warlord was even bigger up close, 8 feet tall with red scales and yellow eyes. He wore armor decorated with symbols that Daehyun did not recognize. Probably kill counts, planets conquered, enemies destroyed. Behind Lord Vex came Lyria. She walked slowly, her chains clinking with each step. 2 guards flanked her, holding long poles attached to the collar around her neck. She kept her eyes down, even hunched over. She was taller than everyone else in the room. "Ambassador Jiwoo," Lord Vex said. His voice was deep and rough. "I am surprised that humans want to participate in our traditions. I thought your species found our ways distasteful." "We do," Jiwoo said coldly, "but we are correcting a wrong." "That is different," Lord Vex laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. "You pay a fortune to free one slave. Meanwhile, millions more are traded every day. You accomplish nothing except making yourselves feel better." "One is better than none," Jiwoo replied. An official from the auction house stepped forward with a data pad. "The transfer is ready. Ambassador Jiwoo, you have transferred 160,000 credits to Lord Vex's account. Once you confirm the transaction, ownership of the Kaloran-designated Lyria will pass to Earth's government." Jiwoo took the data pad. She pressed her thumb against it. The screen flashed green. "Transfer complete," the official said. "The Kaloran is now human property." Daehyun hated those words. Human property, as if Lyria was a thing they owned. But this was how it had to be done. Under consortium law, freeing her without ownership was impossible. They would work on changing that later. Lord Vex made a gesture. The guards released the poles from Lyria's collar. They stepped back. "She is yours now," Lord Vex said. "I hope you find her useful. She is strong. She will work for many years before she breaks completely." He turned and walked away, his heavy footsteps echoing. For a moment nobody moved. Lyria stood there, swaying slightly. She still had not looked up. Jiwoo approached her slowly. "Lyria," she said gently. "My name is Jiwoo. We are humans from the planet Earth. We are going to take you somewhere safe." Lyria did not respond. She did not even blink. Taeyang stepped forward carefully. "We need to get her to the ship," he said quietly, "before anyone asks questions." They led Lyria out of the auction house. She walked with them without resistance, like a ghost. People stared as they passed. Some aliens laughed. Others looked confused. A few looked angry. The walk to the human ship felt like it took forever. When they finally got inside and the doors closed behind them, Daehyun felt like he could breathe again. "Take her to the medical bay," Jiwoo ordered. "Get those chains off her." The medical bay was the largest room on the ship besides the cargo hold. They had cleared it out to make space. Even so, Lyria barely fit. She had to duck to avoid hitting her head on the ceiling. Dr. Summon was waiting. She was a calm woman with kind eyes who had worked in war zones before joining the space program. Nothing shocked her, but even she looked sad when she saw Lyria. "Get her to sit," Soman said. "I need to examine those chains before I remove them. Some of them might be attached in ways that could hurt her." Getting Lyria to sit was harder than expected. She seemed confused by the request. Finally, Taeyang gently touched her arm and guided her down to the floor. She sat with her legs folded under her, staring at nothing. Soman moved around her with a scanner, examining each chain. "These are barbaric," she muttered. "Some of these have been on her for months, maybe longer. The skin underneath is damaged. There is infection in several places." "Can you remove them safely?" Jiwoo asked. "Yes, but it will take time. And I will need to treat the wounds afterward." Someone pulled out cutting tools. "This might hurt," she said to Lyria. "I am sorry." Lyria did not react. It took 2 hours to remove all the chains. The collar around her neck was the hardest. It had a lock that needed special codes to open. Minho had to hack into it. When it finally came off, there was a deep red mark around Lyria's throat. She touched it with trembling fingers. "All done," Soman said softly. "No more chains." For the first time, Lyria looked up. Her blue eyes focused on Soman, then on Jiwoo, then on Daehyun and the others. She looked confused and frightened. "You are safe here," Jiwoo said. "Nobody will hurt you." Lyria opened her mouth. Her voice came out rough and broken, like she had not used it in a long time. "Why?" That one word held so much weight, so much pain and confusion. "Because it was wrong," Daehyun said. "What they did to you, what they did to your people. It was wrong, and we could not let it continue." Lyria's eyes filled with tears. She covered her face with her huge hands and began to cry. The sound was terrible, deep sobs that shook her whole body. Soman moved closer and touched her shoulder. Let it out, she said gently. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to feel. They gave Lyria time. They brought her food and water. They gave her clean clothes that Minho had specially made using the ship's fabricator. They showed her to a room they had prepared, the cargo bay cleared out and converted into living space with a bed big enough for her. She did not speak again that day. She ate a little, drank some water, then she lay down on the bed and curled up like a child. Give her time, Soman said. She has been through trauma we cannot imagine. She needs to feel safe before she will trust us. 2 days passed. Lyria stayed in her room most of the time. Soman checked on her regularly. Hana brought her meals. But Lyria barely talked. She would say thank you in her rough voice, but nothing else. On the 3rd day, Daehyun found her sitting near the ship's main window. She was looking out at the stars. Her expression was distant. Beautiful, are they not? Daehyun said, walking up beside her. The stars. We dreamed about reaching them for thousands of years on Earth. Lyria glanced at him. I used to look at stars, she said quietly. On Kaelora, with my students. It was the first time she had mentioned her past. Daehyun sat down carefully. You were a teacher? She nodded slowly. I taught children, history, art, philosophy. The Kaelorans valued knowledge above all things. We believed that understanding made life meaningful. Her voice cracked. We believed that violence was beneath civilized beings. You were right, Daehyun said. No, Lyria shook her head. We were fools. The Vrexians came with weapons we had never imagined. They killed us so easily. I watched my students die. I watched my whole world burn. And I could do nothing. Daehyun did not know what to say. What words could possibly help? The galaxy is not what you think it is, Lyria continued. You humans are new. You still have hope. You think you can change things. But you cannot. The strong rule. The weak serve. That is the only law that matters. We do not accept that, Daehyun said firmly. On Earth we fought wars to end slavery. We fought wars to protect the weak. We are not perfect, we have made terrible mistakes. But we have learned that strength without compassion is just cruelty. Lyria looked at him with those sad blue eyes. Why did you save me? She asked. I am nothing. One person out of billions enslaved. Why waste your resources? Why risk angering the consortium? Because you are not nothing, Daehyun said. You are someone. You have a name. You had a life. You had students who loved you. That matters. Every person matters. Tears ran down Lyria's face. I want to believe you, she whispered. But I have forgotten how to hope. Over the next days, Lyria began to open up more. She told them about Kaelora, its beautiful cities made of white stone, its libraries that held 1 million books, its gardens where the Kaelorans would gather to discuss ideas and create art. She told them about the invasion, how the Vrexian ships had appeared without warning, how they had demanded surrender, how they had started killing when the Kaelorans refused to fight back. We tried to reason with them, Lyria said. Her voice was hollow. We tried to explain that we had nothing they needed. We tried to offer them our knowledge, our culture. But they did not want that. They wanted slaves. They wanted resources. They wanted our world. Hana sat with her often. The young diplomat would bring her things to read. Human books translated into Kaeloran language that Minho had found in databases. Lyria read them slowly, her huge fingers turning pages carefully. These stories, Lyria said one day. You're human stories. They are about people fighting against impossible odds, about heroes standing up for what is right. Do humans really do this? We try, Hana said. We do not always succeed, but we try. Lyria was quiet for a moment. There are 47 others, she finally said. Others? Daehyun asked. He had come to check on them. Other Kaelorans. The record showed 200 of us alive, but I saw the database before they locked me in the holding cell. I saw where some of us were sent. 47 are in this sector. The others are scattered across the galaxy. Lyria looked at them. Can you save them too? Daehyun and Hana exchanged glances. We will try, Daehyun said. I cannot promise we will succeed, but we will try. The message from the Consortium Council arrived 3 days after humanity went public. It was not a request. It was an order. The vessel known as Horizon's Edge is commanded to return to Velthros Prime immediately. The Kaeloran designated Lyria must be surrendered to proper authorities. Failure to comply will result in charges of theft under consortium law. Daehyun read the message to his crew. They were gathered in the briefing room. Lyria was there too, sitting on the floor because the chairs were too small for her. "They want me back," Lyria said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "You should return me. I am not worth a war." "You are worth everything," Hana said fiercely. "And we are not giving you up." Jiwoo stood at the head of the table. "We are not returning to Veltros Prime. We are going to Helios Station. It is a neutral space station on the edge of consortium territory. We can claim sanctuary there while we figure out our next move." "Will they let us?" Taeyang asked. "Helios Station is independent," Jiwoo explained. "It was built by 3 species who wanted a place outside consortium control. Technically, consortium law does not apply there. It is our best option." Minho looked worried. "The consortium can still send ships. Sanctuary only works if people respect it." "Then we make them respect it," Jiwoo said. The journey to Helios Station took 4 days. During that time, more messages came from the consortium, each one more threatening than the last. Other species were getting involved now. The Vrexians demanded that humans be punished. Several allied empires agreed. But something else was happening too. Some species were starting to question the trade system. Young members of advanced civilizations were speaking out. Student groups on dozens of worlds held protests. It was small, but it was something. "Look at this," Minho said, showing them a news feed from the Venatari homeworld. The Venatari were ancient insect beings who rarely involved themselves in politics. Their youth movement is calling for trade reform. This is huge. The Venatari are respected by everyone. "How many species are supporting us?" Daehyun asked. "Openly? Only 5 minor species, but secretly, Minho thinks at least 50 species have internal groups pushing for change. The consortium is trying to suppress it, but the information is spreading." Lyria watched the news feeds with wide eyes. "People are talking about Kaelora," she said, sounding amazed. "About my students. About what was lost. I thought nobody cared. I thought the galaxy had forgotten us." "They did not forget," Hana said, sitting beside her. "They just did not know. Now they know." Helios Station appeared on their screens like a small city floating in space. It was built from ships and stations connected together over hundreds of years. Millions of beings lived there. Traders, refugees, artists, criminals, anyone who wanted to be outside consortium control. The station gave them permission to dock. When they arrived, a delegation was waiting. 3 beings, one from each of the founding species. A Lumini who looked like living light. A Torthani with blue-green skin and gills, and a Venatari with multiple legs and compound eyes. "Welcome to Helios Station," the Lumini said. Its voice sounded like music. "We have heard your story. We grant you sanctuary under our laws. You may stay as long as you need." "Thank you," Jiwoo said, bowing her head respectfully. "Be warned," the Torthani added. "Sanctuary only protects you while you are on the station. We cannot stop the consortium from sending ships, and we cannot help you fight if they attack." "We understand," Jiwoo said. They moved Lyria to quarters on the station. She could stand up straight there, and the rooms were designed for multiple species, so she fit better. For the first time in months, she had real space to move around. "This is nice," she said, looking around. "It reminds me a little of home." That night, Jiwoo made a decision. "We are going to broadcast," she told the crew. "We are going to put Lyria on every network we can reach. We are going to tell her story directly to the galaxy. Let them hear it from her." "The consortium will try to shut us down," Minho warned. "Let them try," Jiwoo said. They set up equipment in one of the station's public spaces. Word spread quickly. Soon thousands of beings gathered to watch. Aliens from dozens of species, all curious about the humans and the giant they had freed. Hana sat across from Lyria with a camera recording. The broadcast would reach billions. "Tell them about Kaelora," Hana said gently. "Help them understand." Lyria took a deep breath. Then she began to speak. She talked about her world, about the schools where children learned to think and question, about the festivals where Kaelorans would create art together, about the philosophy of peace that guided their civilization. "We believed that violence was the tool of the ignorant," Lyria said. "We believed that any conflict could be resolved through understanding. We were wrong about that. But we were not wrong to try." She described the invasion. Her voice shook, but she did not stop. "The Vrexians came and gave us a choice. Serve or die. When we refused both, they started killing. They bombed our cities. They hunted us through the forests. They took children from their parents and sold them to the highest bidder. In 2 months, millions of Kalorans were dead. The rest of us were in chains. The crowd watching was completely silent. I was a teacher, Lyria continued. I had 40 students. Children who trusted me to keep them safe. When the Vrexians came to our school, I told my students to run. Some of them made it out. Most did not. I can still hear them screaming. Tears ran down her face, but she kept talking. For 2 years, I have been sold 4 times. I have been beaten. I have been starved. I have been told that I am property, not a person. I believed it. I stopped fighting. I stopped hoping. I wanted to die. She looked directly at the camera. Then humans found me. They paid a fortune they did not have. They risked their safety and their lives. They broke me out of chains and told me I mattered. They are a young species. They have only been in space for a short time. But they understand something that the ancient empires have forgotten. Her voice grew stronger. They understand that every thinking being deserves dignity. That slavery is not culture, it is cruelty. That laws protecting evil are not laws worth following. The consortium calls this trade legal, but the humans call it what it really is, slavery. And they refuse to accept it. She stood up, her full height making the crowd gasp. I am Lyria of Kalora. I am not property. I am not a thing to be bought and sold. I am a person with a name and a history and a right to exist. The consortium says otherwise. The consortium is wrong. The broadcast ended. For a moment there was silence. Then the crowd began to cheer. Not all of them. Some aliens looked uncomfortable or angry. But many were moved. The broadcast spread across the galaxy faster than anything before it. Within hours, billions had seen it. Within days, it had reached every corner of consortium space. The response was enormous. Some species condemned Lyria and the humans. They called her a criminal, a liar, a propaganda tool. They demanded she be returned to custody. But others responded differently. Messages of support came from all over. Young beings from advanced species sent recordings of themselves speaking out. Protest movements grew larger. Old arguments about the trade system were revived. And most importantly, former slaves started telling their own stories. Beings who had been freed or escaped began speaking publicly about their experiences. The consortium tried to silence them, but there were too many. The galaxy was beginning to have a conversation it had avoided for thousands of years. But not everyone was happy about it. 5 days after the broadcast, consortium warships arrived at Helio Station. 30 ships, including 5 Vrexian battlecruisers. They surrounded the station and sent a message. Surrender the Kaloran called Lyria within 6 hours, or we will take her by force. The station authorities called an emergency meeting. Jiwoo and Daehyun attended. We cannot fight them, the Venatari representative said. We are a civilian station. We have no weapons capable of stopping a consortium fleet. We do not ask you to fight, Jiwoo said. This is our problem. We will handle it. How? The Torthani asked. You have 1 small ship. They have 30 warships. Jiwoo smiled grimly. We have something better. We have Earth. She sent a message back home. What she asked for was extreme. She knew it. But she also knew humanity would not abandon them. Earth's response came in 3 hours. 5 human destroyers jumped into the system. They were new ships fresh from Earth's shipyards. Humanity had been building its fleet in secret, preparing for exactly this kind of situation. Admiral Una commanded the fleet. She was a veteran of Earth's Space Defense Force, older than Jiwoo, but just as fierce. Consortium fleet, Admiral Una broadcast on open channels. You are threatening a human vessel under sanctuary. We strongly advise you to withdraw. The consortium commander responded. This does not concern you. We are enforcing legitimate law. Leave now or face consequences. The law you are enforcing is immoral, Admiral Una said. We will not leave. If you attack the station, you attack Earth. The standoff began. For 72 hours, the 2 fleets faced each other. Neither side moved. Neither side fired. But weapons were powered up. Shields were active. Everyone was ready. Inside Helio Station, tension was high. Some aliens wanted to surrender Lyria to avoid a war. Others supported the humans. Arguments broke out. Fights started. Lyria stayed in Consortium Prime was the oldest world in known space. Its cities reached into the clouds, built over millions of years by countless civilizations. The Grand Forum Chamber was at the heart of the capital, a massive structure that could hold representatives from 10,000 species. Jiwoo stood at the entrance with her team. Daehyun, Hana, Taeyang, Minho, and others. They had prepared for weeks. They had evidence, testimony, documents, everything they needed to make their case. But they did not have Lyria. She was being held in a secure facility somewhere on the planet. Neutral custody meant consortium custody. Jiwoo had not seen her since they arrived. She worried every day that they would never see her again. "Are you ready?" Daehyun asked. Jiwoo nodded. She wore formal clothing, traditional Korean dress updated for this occasion. She wanted the galaxy to see humanity's culture, to understand they were not barbarians, but a civilization with deep roots and strong values. They walked into the forum chamber. It was overwhelming. Rows upon rows of seats rose up in circles filled with aliens of every imaginable type. Some were tiny, no bigger than insects. Others were enormous. Some breathed air. Others sat in tanks of liquid. Some existed as energy or clouds of gas. 10,000 species, all here to witness this moment. A being of pure light floated at the center of the chamber. It spoke with a voice that echoed from everywhere at once. "The forum is convened. We are here to examine evidence regarding the sentient trade system. The species Earth has challenged practices that are thousands of years old. This is unprecedented. We will hear arguments from both sides. Then we will vote." Jiwoo walked to the speaker's platform at the center. She felt tiny, surrounded by so many beings, but she stood straight and spoke clearly. "Thank you for hearing us. I am Ambassador Jiwoo, representing Earth and humanity. We come here today to speak a simple truth. Slavery is wrong. The trade system practiced by the consortium is slavery. It violates the basic rights of conscious beings. It corrupts civilizations, and it must end." Murmurs filled the chamber, some angry, some supportive, most just confused. A massive reptilian being stood in one of the upper sections. Jiwoo recognized the markings of Vrexian Empire leadership. "The human speaks of rights," the Vrexian said. "But rights are granted by strength. The weak serve the strong. This is nature. This is order. The trade system has maintained peace in the galaxy for millennia. To challenge it is to invite chaos." "Peace built on suffering is not peace," Jiwoo replied. "It is oppression." Another voice spoke, this time from a crystalline being that reflected light in strange patterns. "The consortium has rules. The beings traded are criminals, conquered populations, or species designated as appropriate for commercial use. This is legal and regulated. How does Earth claim moral authority?" Jiwoo gestured to Minho. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. Documents, videos, data. "These are records from your own databases," Jiwoo said. "They show systematic fraud. Species labeled as appropriate for trade based on false research. War started deliberately to create slaves. Entire civilizations exterminated because freeing them was inconvenient." She pulled up specific examples. The chamber watched in silence. The Kaleran people, peaceful scholars. No military, no threat to anyone. The Vrexian Empire invaded them for one reason: to take slaves. Official reports claimed they were hostile. These reports were fabricated. The evidence is in your own records. More images appeared. Children in chains. Cities burning. Mass graves. Some beings in the chamber looked away. Others leaned forward, paying closer attention. "This is propaganda," the Vrexian representative snarled. "Manipulated data." "It is your data," Minho said from his position at the computer. "Unaltered. Verified. We can provide access to anyone who wants to check." The forum moderator, an ancient being called a keeper, raised one of its many tentacles. "We will examine all evidence. Continue, Ambassador Jiwoo." For the next 3 days, the presentation continued. A human lawyer named Nari, sharp and brilliant, walked the forum through centuries of trade records. She showed patterns. She showed deliberate targeting of peaceful species. She showed economic data proving that 5 major empires controlled and profited from everything. "The trade system is not an unfortunate necessity," Nari concluded. "It is a deliberate exploitation machine. These 5 empires have built their wealth on suffering, and they have convinced the rest of you that this is normal." Representatives from the 5 empires stood to defend themselves. They argued tradition. They argued legal precedent. They argued that the system was too big to change without causing collapse. "Billions depend on this economy," a Thalor representative said. The Thaler were an advanced species known for logic and efficiency. To abolish trade overnight would destroy markets across the galaxy. The economic damage would be catastrophic. More catastrophic than 10 billion beings living in chains, Jiwoo shot back. More catastrophic than genocide? The arguments went back and forth. Some species supported humanity. The Venatari scholars presented research showing that civilizations abandoning slavery advanced faster technologically and culturally. The Lumini, beings of pure energy, argued that consciousness itself demanded dignity. But many species opposed change. They feared economic loss. They feared instability. They feared admitting they had been wrong for so long. On the fourth day, the forum called Lyria to testify. Guards brought her into the chamber in chains. The same chains humans had removed months ago. Seeing her bound again made Jiwoo's blood boil, but she kept her face calm. Lyria stood in the center of the chamber. Even with her head bowed, she towered over most species there. The chains clinked softly in the silence. "State your name," the keeper said. "I am Lyria," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "I was born on Kaelora. I was a teacher." "You have been designated as evidence in these proceedings," the keeper said. "You will answer questions truthfully." The Vrexian representative stood immediately. "This being is property of the Empire. Her testimony is biased." "I am not property," Lyria said. Her voice got louder. "I am a person." "You are a conquered species," the Vrexian shot back. "Your people refused to serve. They paid the price. That is law." Lyria looked up. Her blue eyes found the Vrexian across the chamber. "You murdered my people," she said. Each word was careful and controlled. "You burned our cities. You killed our children. You took everything we were and tried to erase us from history, and now you stand there and call it law." The chamber went very quiet. "Tell us about Kaelora," Jiwoo said gently from her position. Lyria took a deep breath. Then she began to speak. She told them about her world, about the philosophy of peace her people had practiced, about the schools and libraries and gardens, about the art and music and stories. "We believed that any being capable of thought was worthy of respect," Lyria said. "We believed that violence was the last refuge of failed understanding. We built our entire civilization on these principles." She described the invasion. Her voice shook but did not break. "We tried to negotiate. We tried to reason. We offered everything we had except our freedom. The Vrexians rejected it all. They wanted slaves. They wanted to break us. They wanted to prove that their philosophy was stronger than ours." Lyria looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many beings as she could. "They succeeded in destroying us, but they did not succeed in breaking our truth. Peace is not weakness. Compassion is not failure. You all sit here in this grand chamber and call yourselves civilized. But civilization is not measured by how tall your buildings are or how fast your ships fly. It is measured by how you treat the helpless." She gestured at her chains. "You call this civilization? I have seen more mercy in predators hunting prey. At least they kill quickly. You kill souls slowly across generations. You convince yourselves this is order, this is law, this is necessity. But it is none of those things. It is simply evil that has lasted so long you have forgotten what good looks like." The chamber erupted. Some beings shouted in anger, others in support. The keeper had to call for order multiple times. During the break, something happened that nobody expected. 3 Vrexian soldiers were supposed to take Lyria back to her cell, but in the corridor they stopped. One of them removed his weapon and set it down. He looked up at Lyria. "I am sorry," he said in the Vrexian language. "Hana was there and translated. I was at Kaelora. I was part of the invasion force. I was told you were animals, that you were not really conscious. I believed it because believing otherwise would have made me a monster." The soldier's voice cracked. "But you are not animals. You never were. And I am a monster. I cannot undo what I did, but I can refuse to do it again. I resign from the Vrexian military. I will face whatever punishment comes." The other 2 soldiers looked at each other. Then they set down their weapons too. "We also resign," they said together. Word of the soldiers' defection spread quickly. By evening, 17 more Vrexian soldiers had resigned. Other species reported similar incidents. Beings who had participated in the trade system were starting to question their actions. The forum reconvened. The final day of testimony came. An unexpected voice requested to speak, Lord Vex himself. the Vrexian warlord who had originally bought Lyria. He stood at 27 days remained until the Empire ultimatum expired. On Earth, people watched the countdown with fear and determination. Humanity had never faced a threat like this before. 5 ancient empires with millions of warships against one young species with barely 300 vessels. But Earth was not preparing to surrender. In the war room deep beneath Sol, military commanders from every human nation gathered around holographic displays. Admiral Una stood at the center, her gray hair pulled back tight, her eyes sharp. "They expect us to fold," she said to the room. "They think we are children playing at war. They are wrong." Daehyun was there too, promoted to fleet captain after his actions at Helios Station. "What are our advantages?" he asked. "Few," Una admitted. "But not zero. We are more mobile. Our ships are newer. And we fight for something they cannot understand anymore. We fight because it is right, not because it is profitable." An intelligence officer named June stepped forward. He was young but sharp, known for finding information others missed. "I have been analyzing Empire communications. There are cracks. The Thaler Collective is hesitant. They voted against abolition, but their population is divided. Many Thaler are questioning their leadership." "How do we exploit that?" another commander asked. "Information," June said. "We show them what their government has been hiding. We broadcast testimony from freed slaves directly into their networks. We make it impossible for them to ignore the truth." Minho was on Earth too, working with a team of hackers and technicians. "I can get messages into their systems," he said. "But they will shut us down fast. We need to be smart about timing." Plans were made. Earth's fleets positioned themselves in defensive formations around human colonies. Evacuation protocols were established. Children and elderly were moved to hidden outposts in deep space. On Consortium Prime, Jiwoo worked frantically to build diplomatic support. She met with representatives from species that had voted for abolition. Some were willing to help. Others were too afraid. "The empires will crush anyone who stands with you," a Lumini envoy told her. "We support your cause, but we cannot risk extinction." "I understand," Jiwoo said. But inside she felt despair growing. Moral support without military support would not stop warships. Lyria was living on Earth now, in a specially built facility that could accommodate her size. She spent her days meeting with freed Kalorans. 47 of her people had been found and released after the vote. It was not many, but it was something. She sat with them in a large garden, designed to remind them of Kalora. They spoke their language and shared memories. Many cried. All were traumatized. But slowly they were healing. "Do you think we have a chance?" one of the Kalorans asked Lyria. His name was Torin, and he had been a musician before the invasion. "I do not know," Lyria admitted. "But I know that humans do not give up. I have seen it. They are stubborn and reckless and brave. If anyone can survive this, they can." Hana came to visit often. She had become close with Lyria during their time together. "How are you feeling?" Hana asked, sitting beside the giant woman. "Conflicted," Lyria said. "I am grateful to be free. I am grateful my people are free. But I feel responsible for this war. If I had not spoken out—" "Stop," Hana interrupted. "You did not start this war. The empires did. Thousands of years ago, when they decided that some beings were worth less than others. You just made them face the consequences." Lyria smiled sadly. "You are wise for someone so young." "I learned from watching you," Hana said. 14 days remained. The Empire Coalition fleet began assembling at the edge of human space. Thousands of warships from 5 civilizations. The largest military force ever gathered in known history. Human scouts sent back images. The fleet was massive, overwhelming, unstoppable. 5,000 ships, Admiral Una said, looking at the reports. "Against our 300. We cannot win a direct fight," Daehyun said. "No," Una agreed. "But we do not need to win. We need to survive long enough for the galaxy to see what the empires are doing. We need to make this war so ugly, so brutal, so obviously wrong that even their allies turn against them." "Guerrilla warfare," Taeyang said. He had been promoted to security commander. "Hit and run. Make them chase us. Make them look like bullies attacking a weaker opponent." "Exactly," Una said. "We fight smart, not hard." Messages went out to all human ships. New tactics were distributed. Pilots trained for scenarios they had never imagined. Engineers worked around the clock modifying vessels for speed and stealth. And the galaxy watched. News networks from thousands of species broadcast constant coverage. Would the empires really attack Earth? Would humanity survive? Opinion was divided. Some species supported Earth openly now. Others remained loyal to the empires. Most just waited to see what would happen. 7 days remained. Something unexpected occurred. Ships began arriving in human space. Not empire ships. Not human ships. Vessels from minor species. Traders, merchants, some small military ships. Human vessels. This is Captain Rella of the Vesk trading fleet. We heard your call. We stand with you. More ships arrived. Then more. Species that had been freed by the vote. Species that had lost loved ones to the trade. Species that simply believed Earth was right. By the 5th day before the deadline, over 2,000 ships had gathered around Earth. Most were small. Many were not military vessels at all. But they came anyway. Why are you here? Jiwoo asked one captain, a being with blue skin and 4 arms. Because you spoke for us when we could not speak for ourselves, the captain said. Because you risked everything for strangers. Because if Earth falls, hope falls with it. Admiral Yuna looked at the gathering fleet and felt something she had not felt in weeks. Hope. We still cannot win, she said to Daehyun, but maybe we can make them think twice. 3 days remained. The Empire Coalition sent a final message. This is your last chance. Reverse the vote. Surrender leadership to consortium authority, agree to punitive measures, or face total destruction. Earth's government held an emergency session. Every nation's leaders participated. The debate was fierce. We should negotiate, some argued. We made our point. The vote passed. We can claim victory and seek compromise. Compromise means returning to slavery, others countered. Everything we fought for dies if we surrender now. President General Ara listened to all arguments. She was a woman in her 60s who had lived through Earth's last major war. She understood the cost of conflict, but she also understood the cost of cowardice. She stood before the cameras and addressed not just Earth but the entire galaxy. We have been asked to choose between peace and principle, between survival and soul. This is not really a choice. If we surrender our principles to survive, we become something not worth saving. Her voice was calm but firm. Yes, we are young. Yes, we are small. Yes, we will probably lose this fight, but we will not abandon what we know to be right. The trade system is evil. Slavery is evil. Genocide is evil. We will oppose these things even if it costs us everything. She looked directly into the camera. To the empires threatening us, you have the power to destroy Earth, but you cannot destroy the truth. You cannot unkill the slaves you freed. You cannot unspeak the words that have been said. The galaxy has changed, and you cannot change it back. The speech ended. Silence followed for a moment. Then Earth erupted in support. Humans across the planet and in colonies throughout space rallied. Protests became celebrations. Fear became defiance. We stand with Earth became the rally cry heard around the human worlds. The galaxy watched this with amazement. A species choosing principle over survival. It was rare, maybe unique. 1 day remained. The Empire fleet moved into position. Attack formations were established. Weapons were powered up. The countdown reached its final hours. Lyria stood on Earth's surface looking up at the sky. She could not see the fleets above, but she knew they were there. Hana stood beside her. Are you afraid? The young woman asked. Terrified, Lyria admitted, but also grateful. My people died in silence. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. If I die tomorrow, I die knowing the galaxy heard our story. That matters. You are not going to die tomorrow, Hana said firmly. We are going to survive this somehow. Lyria smiled. You sound very sure. I'm sure of one thing, Hana said. Humans do not know when to quit. It is both their greatest strength and their greatest flaw. 6 hours remained. Then something impossible happened. The Empire Coalition began to break apart. It started with the Thaler Collective. Their fleet suddenly stopped advancing. Reports came in of fighting aboard their ships. The Thaler population had risen up against their military commanders. They refused to attack Earth. This is the Thaler Rebellion Fleet, a message broadcast. We denounce this war. We stand with the freed beings. We will not fight for slavery. Chaos erupted in the coalition. The Thaler ships turned and left formation. Over 1,000 vessels departing. Then the Qual Unity reported internal problems. Their colonies were revolting. Their government was falling. They withdrew from the coalition. The Mordrani hegemony hesitated. Their leaders argued. Some wanted to continue. Others feared rebellion at home. Finally, they too withdrew. The coalition that had started with 5 empires was now down to 2, the Vrexian Empire and the Serpis Dominion. 3,000 ships left. The first shots were fired at 600 Earth Standard Time. Vrexian battle cruisers opened fire on the human defensive line near Mars. The war everyone feared had begun. Admiral Unha commanded from the bridge of the flagship Indomitable. Tactical displays showed enemy ships in red, allies in blue. The red vastly outnumbered the blue. All ships execute pattern Delta, she ordered. Do not engage directly. Hit and run. Make them chase. Human ships scattered like leaves in wind. The Vrexian fleet tried to pursue, but humans were faster. They would strike from unexpected angles, fire missiles, then disappear before the enemy could respond. Daehyun commanded a strike group of 12 ships. They jumped behind a Vrexian supply convoy and attacked fast. 3 supply ships destroyed in under 2 minutes. Then they were gone, jumping away before reinforcements arrived. It is working, Taeyang reported from his position. The enemy is frustrated. They expected a traditional battle. Keep moving, Daehyun ordered. Never stay in one place. But the war was not without cost. Human ships were faster, but Vrexian weapons were stronger. When they landed hits, the damage was catastrophic. In the first 6 hours, Earth lost 23 ships, nearly 8% of their fleet. At that rate, they would be gone in days. We need help, Una said grimly. She sent messages to every species that had supported Earth at the forum. We are fighting for the freedom you voted for. Please. We need you. The responses came slowly. Most species said they could not help militarily. They offered prayers, support, supplies, but not ships. Then, unexpectedly, a transmission arrived from Lord Vex. Human fleet, this is Lord Vex of the Vrexian forces. I am no longer with the Empire. I have been declared a traitor for supporting the forum vote. I have 200 ships under my command, warriors who share my change of heart. Where do you need us? Admiral Una stared at the message in disbelief. Is this a trick? June analyzed the transmission. I do not think so. Our intelligence confirms there is a split in the Vrexian military. Some commanders are refusing to fight. Lord Vex appears to be leading a faction of them. Accept his help, Daehyun advised. We cannot afford pride right now. Lord Vex's ships joined the battle. Suddenly, human forces had real firepower. The Vrexian rebels knew Empire tactics. They knew weaknesses. The tide began to shift slightly, but the Serpis Dominion entered the system with fresh forces. 1,500 ships, the largest fleet in their history. The Battle of Sol, as it would later be called, became a nightmare of fire and death. Ships exploded. Lives ended by the thousands. The solar system became a graveyard. On Earth, people watched on screens as the battle unfolded above them. They saw human ships dying. They saw the enemy closing in. Many prepared for invasion. Lyria gathered the freed Kelorans. They need help, she said. We cannot fight in ships, but we can help in other ways. How? Torin asked. Medical teams, Lyria said. Rescue operations. The humans are taking casualties. Their medical facilities are overwhelmed. We Kelorans were healers and teachers. We can save lives, the Kelorans agreed. Despite their size, they were gentle and precise. They worked in emergency hospitals helping treat wounded humans. Their huge hands could be remarkably delicate when needed. Hana volunteered too. She worked alongside them, coordinating rescue efforts. Ships would evacuate wounded crew members to stations where Lyria and her people would stabilize them. You are saving so many, Hana said to Lyria during a brief rest period. It is not enough, Lyria said. She looked exhausted. We save 1 life and 10 more die. This war is eating everyone. On day 3 of the battle, something changed. A massive fleet jumped into the system. At first, everyone feared it was more Empire reinforcements, but the ship IDs showed neutral signatures. It was the Venatari, the ancient insectoid scholars who rarely involve themselves in conflict. Human fleet, this is Venatari High Council. A message broadcast. We have watched this war. We have studied the situation. Our analysis is complete. The empires are wrong. You are right. We offer our assistance. The Venatari fleet was not huge, only 400 ships, but they were advanced beyond anything else in the galaxy. Their technology was thousands of years ahead. "Form up with our forces," Admiral Una transmitted back. "Welcome to the fight." The Venatari entered battle. Their weapons were precise and devastating. A single Venatari ship could disable 3 Empire vessels. The enemy lines began to falter. More allies arrived over the following days. The Lumini sent energy beings that could disrupt enemy systems. The Torthani brought aquatic warriors. Dozens of minor species contributed whatever they could. The Battle of Sol became the largest conflict in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships engaged across multiple fronts. The fighting spread from Mars to Jupiter. Every planet and moon became a battlefield. Minho worked from Earth coordinating information warfare. He hacked into Empire communications, spreading propaganda, videos of freed slaves telling their stories, images of Kaloran children playing freely after years in chains, testimony from Vrexian soldiers who had defected. "Break their will," Una had ordered. "Show them what they are really fighting for." The information campaign worked. More Empire soldiers began defecting. Some ships simply stopped fighting and withdrew. Others actively joined the rebellion against their own governments. The Vrexian Empire started having serious problems. Their homeworlds reported massive protests. Workers refused to support the war effort. Military production stopped. Their economy began collapsing. The Serpis Dominion was more stubborn, but even they could not fight indefinitely. Their forces were taking heavy losses. Their allies had abandoned them. They were alone. On day 14, the Serpis Dominion requested a ceasefire. "We will withdraw our forces," their message stated. "We request negotiations." The Vrexian Empire followed hours later. The Empire agrees to ceasefire terms. "We will negotiate peace." The Battle of Sol ended. The final count was devastating. Over 3,000 ships destroyed. Millions of lives lost. Both sides had paid terribly. But humanity had survived. Peace negotiations began immediately. They were tense and difficult. The empires wanted to minimize their losses. Earth and its allies demanded real change. Jiwoo led the human delegation. She was exhausted, but her resolve never wavered. "We want full abolition enforced," she stated. All slaves freed. All trade systems dismantled. War crime tribunals for those responsible, and reparations for victim species. The Empire representatives resisted. They argued. They tried to negotiate lesser terms. "No," Jiwoo said simply. "You lost this war. These are the terms. Accept them or fighting continues." It took 3 weeks of negotiation. Finally, a treaty was signed. The Treaty of Sol established several key points. All sentient trade was permanently banned throughout consortium space. Enforcement mechanisms were created with teeth. The 5 empires would pay reparations to victim species for the next 100 years. Leaders responsible for genocide and slavery would face trial. A galactic emancipation initiative was created to locate and free any remaining slaves. It was not perfect, but it was real. The empires signed. They had no choice. Their populations would not support continued fighting. The galaxy had turned against them. 5 years passed. Earth had become a major power in the consortium, not through conquest but through moral leadership. Other species looked to humans for guidance on ethics and rights. Daehyun, now an admiral himself, commanded Earth's exploration fleet. They traveled to distant systems, helping rebuild worlds destroyed by the old trade system. Jiwoo served on the Consortium Council. She was one of the most respected voices there. When she spoke, beings listened. Hana had become Earth's youngest ambassador. She specialized in helping freed slave populations adjust to their new reality. Lyria stood on the surface of Kilora. Her homeworld. The planet was being rebuilt. It would take decades, maybe centuries, to restore what had been lost. But it was happening. Around her, young Kilorans played. Not just the 47 who had been freed initially. More had been found scattered across the galaxy. Nearly 300 Kylorans were alive now. It was not the millions that had existed before, but it was a beginning. Daehyun had come to Kaelora for the dedication ceremony. The first new city was complete, built with help from dozens of species. A symbol of what cooperation could achieve. "Thank you for coming," Lyria said when she saw him. "I would not miss this," Daehyun replied. He had to look up to see her face. Even after 5 years, her size still amazed him. They walked through the new city together. Buildings designed for Kaloran scale stood alongside smaller structures for visiting species. Gardens were being planted. Schools were being established. I have been thinking about that day, Lyria said. The day you found me at the auction. I was so empty inside, so broken, I had given up on everything. You are not broken now, Daehyun observed. No, Lyria agreed. She smiled. Because you showed me something I thought was extinct in the galaxy. You showed me that beings could care about strangers, that justice was more than just a word, that one person could make a difference. They reached a plaza at the center of the city. A monument stood there, a statue of a Kaloran and a human standing together. The inscription was in both languages,